Okay, let's build something for the real world. In my case, I'm going to use a workflow to analyze user input. This is meant to be a real-world scenario for a help desk company where people call because they have problems. And we want to analyze if these are hardware or software problems. So let's start with the input. In my case, I'm going to use the chat trigger to demonstrate the incoming call. And that needs to be analyzed. So let's use a basic LLM chain for that. We need to connect a model. Let's use one from OpenAI, pick the right credentials, and GPT-4o Mini should be good to do the job. So this is the very basic setup. By the way, you can rename these nodes here, like chat input. This makes it easier to read, and it's also better to reference inputs and outputs later on if you need some data from different nodes than the one that was right before. You can also add some nodes here and display them in the flow. Here is the text. And don't forget to save all the time. And let's rename this basic LLM chain and call it analyze user input. Now let's try this out and I say I have a printer problem. The workflow is running. And we get some basic answer here. Have you tried this and that? But remember, we wanted to classify if a user has a hardware or a software problem, because it might be helpful to pass the input from the user to a different department depending on what the problem is. So let's add a prompt here. We can enlarge the window. And now we give it special instructions. Your task is to classify if a user is talking about hardware or software problems. Just analyze the input and create either software or hardware as the output. Now let's test the step. And here we get hardware as the output. Let's try I have an Outlook problem. And this time it should be able to tell us that this is a software problem. Now let's try I can't print with Outlook. And this time it says it's a software problem because Outlook was mentioned. That might be correct or maybe not. Now let's try something that has nothing to do with hardware or software, like my hairstyle is terrible, and it still says this is a software problem. Well, I don't think that is true. So we need to modify this classification a little bit more, and we will do that in the next video.